Hari Om Tat Sat. Four chapters on freedom, a commentary on Yoga Sutras of Patanjali by Swami Satyanand Saraswati. Chapter 1 Samadhi Pad. Sutra 2. What is Yoga? Yoga Chit Vritti Nirodha. Yoga, Yog, Chitta, consciousness, Vritti, patterns or circular patterns. Nirodha, blocking, stopping. To block the patterns of consciousness is yoga. The sutra is a composition of four words: yoga, chitta, vritti, and nirodha. We will not explain the word yoga now, as it will be better to understood. It will be better understood after studying all the 195 sutras. Chitta is derived from the basic idea of chit, which means to see, to be conscious of, to be aware. Hence, chitta means individual consciousness, which includes the conscious state of mind, the subconscious state of mind, and also the unconscious state of mind. The totality of these three states of individual mind is symbolized by the experience, by the expression chitta. Chitta has been differently accepted in Vedanta, but here chitta represents the whole of the individual consciousness, which is comprised of three stages: the sense or objective consciousness, the subjective or astral consciousness, and the unconsciousness or mental state of dormant potentiality. These three states of pure consciousness should be understood as the chitta referred to in this sutra. In the Mandukya Upanishad, the four states or dimensions of consciousness are dealt with in a very lucid form. If you read this Upanishad or a commentary on it, your personal consciousness will become clear to you. In this sutra, chitta represents all the four dimensions of consciousness, but it is a symbol of three dimensions of consciousness. These three dimensions of consciousness are spoken of as chitta, and the fourth dimension is spoken of as Atman. In brief, we can say that Atman plus chitta is Jivatma, the individual awareness. Jivatma minus chitta is Atman. This is merely an indirect explanation of the word. What do we mean by blocking? Does it mean that we block and stop our thoughts, visions, respiration, desires, and personality complexes? If that is so, then Patanjali is introducing suppression. This is true only so long as chitta is taken in the light of mind, the instrument of general knowledge. But when the chitta is understood to be the total consciousness in the individual, giving rise to various manifestations in the mental or astral realms, then the doubt regarding the act of suppressing will be rent asunder. The expression Nirodha in this sutra apparently means a process of blocking, but it should not mean an act of blocking the fundamental stuff of awareness. In fact, it is clear in this sutra that it is an act of blocking the patterns of awareness, not the awareness itself. As a practitioner of yoga, you will certainly agree with this apt expression in the sutra that the patterns of awareness become blocked in the yogic state of meditation. A little later in this chapter, you will learn more about the fundamental structure and the nature, action, and reaction of chitta. But in this sutra, it is hinted that a different and fundamental state of consciousness can be achieved by blocking the flow of consciousness. When you go to bed at night and enter the unconscious state of awareness, what happens to your sense awareness, your body and brain? Do they die, or is it a process of blocking the flow of sense awareness and mental awareness? Certainly, it is a state where the psychological functions are cut off from the realm of individual awareness. The flow of vrittis changes, and therefore you experience a different plane, different objects, events, persons, places, and process. All that is the vrittis pertaining to a different state of awareness due to the process of blocking the normal vrittis. If you analyze all such states where individual awareness manifests in different modes, forms, and dimensions, you will come to the realization that the process of vrittis is different from awareness, and that one can block this flow of vrittis and transcend the limitations of awareness, or rather put an end to this ever incarnating flow of vrittis. This again brings us to the fact that there is a definite process, unconcerned and different from all that relates to the body, mind, senses, and prana, and it is that awareness which keeps on changing from state to state. This process is consciousness, a state of constant and unbroken awareness. There is in us the existence of consciousness which is irrespective of this body, which is with the body, and at the same time it can be without the body or outside it. It is that which is to be blocked. It is not the ordinary thoughts that we have to suppress. These thoughts are just nothing, a mere handful of our awareness. There seems to be a fantastic area of consciousness, unimaginable, beyond this body, with this body, but sometimes outside this body, and it is infinite. We call it Ananta, unending, infinite. So, by certain practices, which we will learn about in the next chapter, there can and there will take place an event in which this invisible process of consciousness can be blocked. Let us understand it correctly. The flow of consciousness that we are talking about is not the flow of your mind and thoughts. It is not the flow of your feelings, passions, and desires. It is not the stock of your emotions and experiences. The word chitta means the consciousness as a whole, in and outside the body, with and without it. In brief, the consciousness is like a thread connecting many lives and incarnations. Therefore, the word Nirodha does not mean blocking thoughts, desires, ambitions, passions, and so forth, but it means the act or acts of blocking the process of consciousness responsible for re-manifestation. Vritta means a circle and vritti means circular. When you throw a stone into a pond, the movement of the water spread outward in the form of circles. In the same manner, the consciousness has its circular patterns. These are neither horizontal nor perpendicular, but circular, and so it moves in a circular pattern. Therefore, the attitudes of chitta, the modes of mind, are called chitta vritti. Nirodha is from the basic word rodha, which means an act of blocking. We have words developed from this root: rodha, avarodha, nirodha, virodha. Avarodha is obstruction, nirodha is blocking, virodha is opposition. So the idea of blocking is clarified. To come to the final point, what is yoga? The sutra replies that yoga is the blocking of the patterns arising in all the dimensions of consciousness. It is not only shutting off from the external experiences which you face every morning and evening, but it is setting aside the vision you have in deep meditation and higher samadhi. When the expressions of individual awareness arising in different planes are transcended, the state of yoga manifests. This is the order or sequence of evolution of your consciousness. Mental states and Kundalini Yoga. Evolution of consciousness in man is classified according to 5 stages. Human consciousness will finally develop itself when it becomes free from the clutches of Prakriti or the 3 gunas, which will be fully discussed in the second chapter. In discussing the word chitta vritti, we mentioned the 5 stages of mind. When we compare these 5 stages with the awakening of Kundalini, it can be safely said that the Mudha state, dullness of mind, belongs to Muladhara Chakra, where the individual consciousness is sleeping or dormant. In Sanskrit, it is said that the Kundalini is dormant, the serpent power is sleeping. After you have done certain practices, this becomes so stimulated or agitated that the agitation continues up to Manipur Chakra. The associated state of mind at this stage is known as Kshipta. Up to Manipura or the navel center, there is every possibility for a spiritual aspirant to be thrown back to Muladhara. The consciousness wakes up, goes to Swadhisthana, then up to Manipur, then it comes back to Muladhara again because that is its nature. However, when the consciousness has reached Manipura and has stayed there for some time and has gone through or transcended it, then the consciousness becomes steady in the sense that the Vikshipta stage continues up to Agya Chakra, and from Agya Chakra onwards, the state of concentration takes place. Sahasrar, the highest chakra, is the seat of Nirodha. It is beyond the three gunas. All functions of the body, mind, and world are dependent on the interplay of the three gunas. Much has been written on the gunas, and no better explanation can be had about the gunas than in Sankhya philosophy. The cosmic nature has the threefold characteristics in its nature. In this sense, every action, thought, and event is created due to the interaction of the three gunas. The mind too is greatly influenced by their interactions. When Sattva guna predominates, the mind remains quiet, the vrittis remain concentrated, and nothing causes disturbance. When a tamas predominates, then nothing in the world can keep you active, spiritual, or blissful. You will always find your mind dull, inert, and tense. Such is the effect of tamas over the consciousness. One guna alone does not influence the personality. There is always a combined influence of all the three gunas. When a tamas guna predominates and is suppressing the two other gunas, the mind enters into an inactive state. As a result, there is a process of slow thinking. At times, thinking also ceases to manifest. When this state deepens, the mental inactivity becomes acute, manifesting in a state of deep neurosis. This is the dull state of mind known as the Mudha condition of Chitta. When Rajas is predominant with Sattva and Tamas suppressed, the mental condition is scattered, dissipated, broken into pieces, intending to commit suicide, trying to murder, and developing a split in the personality. This is the Kshipta state of mind. The Vikshipta state of mind is an oscillating state of mind. In this particular state of mind, the individual consciousness operates between steadiness and distraction. This is the usual condition of all spiritual aspirants when they sit for puja, meditation, concentration, or antarmona. This is the state of mind of a good student who, though keen and deep in his studies, is subject to temporary unsteadiness due to the interplay of the gunas. When the flow of concentration born of sattva is interrupted by unsteadiness born of rajas, one is said to be in the vikshipta state of consciousness. In this state of consciousness, one has inner visions. The aspirant is very sensitive and subject to moods. You will find him meditating for hours and suddenly leaving everything for days together. This is a very important stage. Here, yoga begins. All the gunas have complete freedom here to express themselves individually. When sattva has free expression, one pointedness dawns. When rajas is overpowering, the mind is dissipated. When tamas comes into play, there is neither one pointedness nor dissipation, there is only dullness and inactivity. It is very important for a spiritual aspirant to analyze the predominance of the three gunas and to find out the guna in power at the moment. It is a rare moment when all the gunas have an equal influence on a person. One guna always holds sway over the others and rules even though the other gunas have an equal chance of operation. For example, when rajas is in power, there is always a counter movement of the other gunas, resulting in a state of concentration and dissipation following each other. Therefore, one has to realize which particular guna is in absolute power at the moment and how counter movements are taking place. If there is more dissipation and less concentration, then it is rajas. If there is less concentration and less dissipation, but more snoring and sleep, it means tamas is predominating. If there is more concentration and less dissipation and less sleep, it means sattva is predominating. After having analyzed the influence of the three gunas over consciousness, one should find out ways to eliminate the negative influence of a particular guna and to develop the influence of a positive guna. For instance, if after observation and analysis of the thoughts you have discovered the influence of tamas during meditation, you should try to find out ways and means to reduce that influence and develop the opposite guna by an appropriate method. The technique of developing the positive influence is more important than trying to suppress the negative influence of the guna. In this context, one should employ asanas, pranayama, and certain practices of Hatha Yoga. It does not matter whether a tamas is constitutional or mental, habitual, or a temporary physical change. Asanas and Hatha Yoga will eliminate the pressure of tamas to a very great extent. Physical work is also a great power to exterminate the very existence of tamas, not only during meditation but from the very structure of life. If you are overpowered by the force of rajas during meditation in particular and your daily life in general, so much so that you are unable to concentrate on anything due to mental troubles, sanskaras, desires, life problems, and depressions. You should stop fighting with yourself and employ all those practices that reduce the elements of rajas from the very root of life itself. Such practices, for example, are bhakti and japa yoga. Karma yoga should be practiced. You should also do physical work not because you need it, but because it is a necessity in your spiritual life. Suppose you find that Rajoguna is very powerful and at the time of meditation, and as a result, you are unable to concentrate your mind, and after a while, you go to sleep. Then the mind starts wavering, thinking about many different things. You cannot control it. What should you do? At this time, you have to employ the practices by which you can reduce Rajoguna. And please remember that Rajoguna can be reduced by the practices of bhakti and the monotonous rotation of japa. Sometimes you find that Sattva guna is powerful, although the other gunas are also operating one after the other. Of course, you do not have to eliminate Sattva guna, you will have to strengthen it because Sattva is desirable. Tamoguna is undesirable and you will have to reduce it. Rajoguna is also undesirable and you will also have to reduce it. While a tamoguna is predominating, you have to reduce it. When Rajoguna is predominating, you have to reduce it. But when Sattva is predominating and at the same time Rajas and Tamas are present, you have to intensify the power of Sattva Guna by different methods as enunciated in yogic texts. You need to think for yourself by which method you can strengthen your Sattva Guna. Maybe through dharana, maybe through satsang, maybe through studying books, maybe through adjustment of diet. Every spiritual aspirant has to analyze the influence of the three gunas for at least some time during the 24 hours. So, when you find that for one full month the mind was full of concentration and in between there was a little bit of wavering, it is the oscillating state or vikshipta state of mind. Now, for example, your state is unsteady. You have not established it, but you are establishing it. Which particular guna is more powerful? If a tamoguna is more powerful, you will go down, your sadhana will be reduced. If sattva is predominating, you will be concentrated and go into meditation. Thus, in general, you have to read your condition during meditation, and the means will have to be employed according to that. It is said that yoga begins when the vikshipta state of mind is arrived at. Shipta and mood, the two previous stages, are unyogic. They are called, we call the worldly stages of mind. Muda is far from any yogic concept. Now we come to the word ekagrata. Ekagrata means one pointedness, and in this Rajoguna and Tamoguna are absent. Only Sattva Guna is present. When the mind attains a one pointed state, At that time, Rajas and Tamas are both totally absent. Sattva only alone prevails. When this stage is arrived at, then the last one to be achieved is Nirodha, complete cessation. In this, neither tamas nor rajas nor sattva functions. That is the state of mind called Trigunatit, beyond the three gunas, when the consciousness is rendered absolutely free from the clutches of the three gunas. When your individual consciousness is rendered free from the clutches of the three gunas, and when your consciousness stays alone without any friendship or without any alliance with these three gunas, that state of consciousness is called Nirodha. This is the comparison between the awakening of Kundalini consciousness and the yogic terminology as detailed here. Hari Om Tat Sat, Hari Om Tat Sat, Hari Om Tat Sat.